Hi guys, my name is Fabrice Verdun. This is my friend Peter. Peter talk for everybody the new program I love.
You know, I've been teaching the flag and the rape escape program now for about 10 years, and I've been teaching it all over the country. And I'm constantly asked by schools over and over again, do you have a program for young men? And for a long time, I didn't. I didn't have any programs for men. I focused solely on the flag program and the rape escape program for young girls. And then a few years ago, something really beautiful happened in my life. Because I get a chance to work with U.S. military forces around the country, I also get a chance to meet military personnel, spend time with them, and I get to read, to do, and experience a lot of things that most people don't. Several years ago, a young Marine lieutenant was killed on the Afghanistan border. He left behind a beautiful little 6-year-old son and a 4-year-old daughter. He also left behind a beautiful young widow. His widow wrote a letter to his platoon, just a very simple letter. And in the letter, she asked that each man in the platoon write a letter back, a letter to his children, telling his children about the father that they would never know. More aptly put, telling his children about the man whose grave they would stand over every Father's Day. I was very fortunate to read the letters, and I can tell you they were beautiful. Some of the most beautiful letters I've ever read in my life. What was surprising to me is that the letters were not about war. They were not about death or destruction or about killing. They were about this man. They were about the kind of man he was, a man of bravery and honor and of courage. They talked about how special he was, how much he believed in what he was doing, and how much he believed in protecting and defending both his country and, more importantly, the man standing next to him. It was an amazing letters that I got a chance to read. One of the letters, and ultimately the most beautiful one that I read, was written by a Marine lieutenant who was his commander. And he wrote and he talked about this man, and he talked about some of the things that I think are maybe the most important things that we could ever embody in our life as men. He talked about honor and courage, talked about faith, and he talked about love. And he really talked about these things, about how important it was that each one of us, especially men, try to embody these principles. He talked about what he believed was best in men and how this man really was what was best in men. The sadness of this and the great tragedy in all of this is that when that platoon commander mailed that letter back to the widow and the children, he died very soon thereafter. He himself was killed along the Afghanistan border. For a long time I had these letters and I read them and I kept them to myself. Most people who know me know I have a little 6-year-old boy named Tanner. And he is without a doubt the absolute light and love of my life. He's the most important thing in the world to me. And I began to think about all the things that I would want Tanner to know to be a good man. How would my son grow up to be a good man? And then one night I had a crazy dream. I dreamed that there was a knock on my door, and I answered the door, and God was standing at my door. And of course, he's God, so I invited him in. I thought we'd have a cup of coffee. And I remember sitting down at the table and talking and asking him questions like any one of us probably would. And he looked at me and with a smile, he said, "It's time." And I said, "What do you mean it's time?" He said, "It's time to go." And I said, "What do you mean it's time to go?" And he said to me, "It's time for you to come home." And I begged and I pleaded because, of course, I didn't want to go. And he said, "Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you an hour. I'm going to give you 1 hour to do anything that you want to do with your life. But when your hour is up, it's time to go." So I thought about it, and it was a pretty easy question to answer. I asked for 1 hour with my little boy, Tanner. 1 hour to tell my son everything that I hope and that I pray I have a lifetime to tell him. 1 hour. 1 hour to tell my son how much I love him, how much he matters, how much that he means to me. 1 hour to teach him about the things that I think are most important in men, the things that I think make men heroes. To teach my son about honor and about courage, about faith, and maybe most importantly, to teach him the one thing I think that we have forgotten to teach our children, to teach them about love. How important it is to take care of each other, to love one another, and be good to each other. Well, fortunately or luckily, I woke up from my dream, and I did the first thing any father would probably do. I went down to my son's bedroom and made sure he was there, and he was sleeping peacefully. Well, I obviously couldn't get back to sleep. In fact, I have a tear in my eye just thinking about it. So I went downstairs and I made a cup of coffee. And I sat down at my kitchen table. And I thought about what I would tell my son if all I ever had was that hour. What are the things I would want my son to know? And I sat down and I drank my cup of coffee and I had a fictitious conversation with my son. And I wrote these things down. And I realized that the things I wanted to tell my son are the things every father should tell his son. Maybe the things that every young man should know. maybe the things that matter. Because I look around the world today and I see the world is changing. And I think we've forgotten to remind our children about honor and courage and faith. And I think we forget to tell our children how much to love. And I think sometimes we forget to tell them how much we love them. So I wrote this conversation down. And I decided to dedicate this conversation to the men and women who fight for our country, the men and women who I believe are the real heroes in this world, those people who are willing to put their life on the line, lay their life down for others, for a cause greater than themselves. And I decided that I would make this program and call it The World Needs Heroes. And most people refer to it as the Heroes Program. And I teach this program now all over the country. It's not a lecture, it's a conversation. It's a 60-minute conversation between myself and fathers and sons and young men. And it talks about all the things that I hope and that I pray that my son will grow up to know. I love the Heroes Program. I love the effect it has on people. I love teaching it. And I love the fact that one day, I hope and that I pray, that my son will grow up to be that man. My son will grow up to be a good man, a man who cares for others, a man who has honor and courage and faith, and a man who has love. These are the gifts I would like to leave my son. And I think these are the gifts that all fathers would like to leave their children. So I hope that you'll join me in sponsoring a Heroes Program and experiencing a Heroes Program. I think it's a beautiful program. It's a wonderful program, and I think it's a great opportunity for men to sit down and talk about the things that sometimes we forget to talk about in life. I think we've forgotten that, and I hope that you will help me find a way to share that with the world. Because in the end, we're all in this together. It's all about the things that matter. And I believe that we need to start taking care of each other. We need to start loving each other. And we need to start treating each other better. And what better way than to sit down and have a conversation? And so there it is. That's my program, The World Needs Heroes. It works with my FLAG program or my Rape Escape program. It's a special program, and it's a wonderful program. And I really think that you'll enjoy it. So please join me in helping to make a difference. It's been said that all that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. Please join me in doing something. Thank you.